Have you ever wondered whether the color of your hair could carry a deeper meaning beyond mere appearance as a symbolic mirror of your inner world? At first glance, it might seem like a simple, superficial curiosity, a trivial trait determined by genetics. But for Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, nothing in our physical appearance is truly random. Everything visible carries within it an invisible story. Jung believed that the external world and the internal world are deeply interconnected. Our physical traits, whether innate or chosen, can act as archetypal symbols, reflecting energies, tendencies, and psychological patterns that shape who we are at our core. And few characteristics are as symbolically charged as the color of your hair. Think about it. In every culture, every myth, every era, hair color has been associated with specific energies, temperaments, and destinies. Whether it's the fiery spirit of redheads, the radiant presence of blondes, the mysterious depth of black hair, or the grounded wisdom of brunettes, each of these colors carries an ancient symbolic weight rooted in the collective unconscious. This is not fortune-telling, it is not superficial. It is a psychological lens, a way to dive deeper into yourself. What if the color of your hair were not just a matter of aesthetics, but a symbolic imprint of the energy your soul naturally transmits to the world? What if it subtly influenced your emotional patterns, your strengths, your challenges, and even your spiritual path? When we look through Jung's lens, through archetypes, symbolism, and the collective unconscious, something as simple as hair color transforms into a powerful mirror of the soul. This isn't about boxing you in. It's about recognizing the energies you embody and how they interact with the world around you. In this journey, we will explore the deeper meaning of hair color. Whether you were born with it or chose to change it, your hair holds clues. It speaks a silent language of archetypes, and by understanding it, you can gain profound insight into your psyche, your emotional blueprint, and the energies you naturally project. But before we begin, if you are someone seeking meaning, self-awareness, and personal growth, consider subscribing to our channel. This is a space for those ready to go beyond the surface, to decipher the hidden symbols of the psyche, and to deepen their understanding of themselves. Now, take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear might forever change the way you look in the mirror. You will realize that the reflection staring back at you was never just about appearance. It was always about energy, identity, and the unique psychological imprint your soul carries. The psychological mirror behind your hair color. To truly understand why something as simple as hair color can hold profound meaning, we must first look more closely at Carl Jung's view of reality. Jung believed that life was not divided between the physical and the psychic. In his view, the external world and the internal world are mirrors of each other, reflecting, influencing, and shaping one another. This wasn't just poetic thinking. It was a fundamental principle of his work. Jung proposed that the psyche speaks a language of symbols and that everything around us, including our own bodies, is a canvas upon which the unconscious projects meaning, energy, and archetypal patterns. According to Jung, there exists what he called the collective unconscious, a deep, universal layer of the mind shared by all humanity. Within this collective unconscious live archetypes, timeless, symbolic patterns that exist across all cultures, myths, and human experiences. The warrior, the healer, the sage, the trickster, the lover. These are not just characters in stories. They are psychological forces that live within us and often manifest in how we think, feel, act, and even how we look. Jung believed that symbols are not random. They are the psyche's way of expressing energies too deep, too primal, or too vast to be described in words. Whether in dreams, myths, or even physical traits, symbols are a bridge between the conscious mind and the mysterious depths of the unconscious. So, what does this have to do with your hair color? Everything. Your hair, its texture, shape, and yes, its color, is one of the most visible manifestations of your physical identity. And in Jungian psychology, physical identity often serves as a symbolic gateway to the inner world. It's a way the psyche speaks, consciously or unconsciously. That's why, throughout history, hair has carried immense symbolic weight. In ancient myths, religious texts, and folklore, hair was never seen as just hair. It was a symbol of vitality, seduction, rebellion, purity, power, wisdom, or wildness, depending on its form, color, or how it was worn, cut, grown, or altered. Even today, the way we perceive different hair colors is laden with unconscious associations. Blonde hair elicits different reactions than black hair. Red hair carries a different energy than brown. Gray hair communicates something entirely distinct. And when someone chooses to dye their hair, whether to express rebellion, conform to an aesthetic, or reclaim youth, they are not just changing their appearance. They are engaging in the symbolic language of the psyche. But here's the key point. Whether your hair color is natural or chosen, the color you wear often resonates with the psychological energy you most strongly embody, or an energy you are unconsciously drawn to develop, express, or heal. This is not superstition. It is not divination. It is about symbolism, the same universal language Jung saw in dreams, myths, synchronicities, and in the very fabric of who we are. Jung believed that the psyche is constantly seeking wholeness, and in that quest, it expresses itself through symbols that reflect our inner landscape. Some of these symbols appear in the world around us. Others we carry in our bodies. Hair, therefore, becomes more than a mere biological trait. It becomes an archetypal signal, carrying meaning, not because society imposes that meaning, but because the unconscious mind naturally organizes reality through patterns, colors, symbols, and energies. This is why someone with fiery red hair might carry, or even attract, the psychological energy of the rebel, the seducer, or the mystic. Why someone with jet black hair might embody the archetype of the protector, the philosopher, or the explorer of the shadow. Why a radiant blonde might reflect the energy of the child, the muse, or the light bearer. And why an earthy brunette often channels the energy of stability, nurturing, and grounded wisdom. And for those whose hair turns silver or white over time, the symbolism deepens further, connecting them to the archetype of the sage, the elder, the wisdom bearer. When we look through Jung's lens, these associations are not superficial stereotypes. They are reflections of deep, timeless patterns that the human psyche has always recognized, even if it didn't consciously understand them. The real question then arises: what energy does your hair color reflect in your inner world? And just as importantly, are you consciously embodying that energy? Or are you unconsciously resisting it? In the next part, we will examine exactly what each hair color symbolizes through the lens of Jungian psychology. You may be surprised to discover that the story written in your reflection has always been far deeper than you realized. By the way, if you're curious about exploring how to deepen and integrate your shadow and light, check out the Method CE book. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. You'll find the link in the first pinned comment below. The meaning of black hair, the depth of the shadow, and the guardian of secrets. Let's start with one of the most common yet most misunderstood hair colors. Across all cultures, black hair has always been associated with mystery, depth, and power. And when viewed through the lens of Carl Jung's psychology, this symbolism is not random. It is the expression of profound archetypal forces. In Jungian terminology, black is the color of the shadow, but not in a negative sense. The shadow, according to Jung, represents everything that is hidden, everything that is invisible, everything that is unknown, both in the world and in the psyche. The shadow is not just the repressed or dark parts of ourselves. It is about depth, introspection, protection, and the capacity to hold complexity. The archetype of the guardian of the depths. People with naturally black hair often unconsciously embody the archetype of the guardian, the philosopher, the protector of secrets, or even the explorer of the shadow. There is a natural pull inward, toward looking beneath the surface of things. They are rarely satisfied with superficial answers. Whether they are aware of it or not, they often carry an intense inner world, rich with thoughts, reflections, and emotional complexity. They may be the ones who sense what is left unsaid in a conversation, who detect the hidden currents in relationships, who intuitively feel what others try to conceal. This is not about suspicion. It is about a natural ability to see the invisible layers of reality. In mythology, the color black is often associated with the archetype of the sorcerer, the priestess, the sage, or the keeper of forbidden knowledge. It is the color of fertile soil, where seeds grow unnoticed. It is the color of the night sky, which holds the stars. It is an invitation to dive into oneself, to confront the unknown, and to emerge wiser. Psychological tendencies. Those who carry this archetypal energy tend to be introspective, insightful, and often emotionally intense. They may prefer fewer but deeper connections rather than wide circles of superficial relationships. They value authenticity, pretense, small talk, and shallow interactions often feel draining or meaningless to them. There is also a natural protective instinct. People with black hair may find themselves in roles where they serve as emotional anchors for others, whether as a silent listener, mentor, guide, or protector in times of chaos. Light and shadow of black hair. Like all archetypes, the energy of black hair contains both light and shadow. The light side is wisdom, resilience, emotional depth, and an unparalleled ability to see through illusions. These individuals are often the ones others turn to when life gets tough, when authentic answers are needed rather than platitudes. Their presence feels grounding, safe. But the shadow side of this archetype can manifest as isolation, emotional burden, or even cynicism. Sometimes, such deep immersion in the mysteries of life can make it hard to stay connected to joy, spontaneity, or lightness. There may be a tendency to overthink, ruminate, or get lost in existential questions. Some may feel misunderstood, perceived as serious, intense, or too deep by those who operate on the surface. This can lead to an even stronger retreat into solitude, reinforcing the pattern. Spiritual calling. The spiritual calling for those with this archetypal signature is profound. It is the calling of the alchemist of the psyche, the one who is not afraid to dive into themselves, confront the unknown, wrestle with the shadow, and transform darkness into wisdom. They are bearers of depth in a world obsessed with appearances, guardians of sacred mysteries in a culture distracted by noise. They are the ones who, consciously or unconsciously, remind others that life is not just what is visible, but also what is hidden, subtle, and sacred. Reflection. To hold. If your hair is black, whether by birth or by choice, ask yourself, where am I called to embrace depth rather than distraction? Do I honor my role as a guardian of emotional truth, or do I retreat into isolation? How can I balance my need for introspection with the joy of being present in the world? Because when the energy of black hair is fully integrated, it becomes a gift, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. These are the people who hold space for transformation, who can witness the pain, sadness, and uncertainty of others and offer presence, not solutions, silence, not judgment, wisdom, not empty comfort. The meaning of brown hair, the energy of the grounded builder and the guardian of stability. If black hair represents the depth of the shadow and the mysteries of the invisible, Brown hair is the symbol of stability, grounding, and harmony with the natural world. In Jungian psychology, this archetype is deeply tied to the element of earth, an energy that nourishes, sustains, and creates safety. Brown, as a color, is the color of soil, of roots, of the foundation, the place where things grow steadily, slowly, and patiently. People with brown hair, whether by nature or by choice, often embody the psychological archetype of the builder, the nurturer, the sustainer, or the keeper of order. The archetype of the builder of stability. There is something profoundly comforting in the presence of those who carry these energies. They are often the silent, reliable force behind families, communities, and relationships. They do not seek to be in the spotlight. Their strength lies in their perseverance, their ability to show up day after day with dedication, patience, and care. In a chaotic, fast-changing world, the archetype of brown hair becomes an embodiment of safety, reliability, and nourishment. These are the people who hold everything together, who create homes, build relationships, nurture growth, and preserve what truly matters. This archetype resonates deeply with the energies of loyalty, practicality, and long-term vision. There is a profound understanding that true value does not come from flashes of excitement, but from consistency over time. Psychological tendencies. From a psychological perspective, those who carry this energy often have an innate sense of responsibility. They are usually the ones others turn to in times of need. Not because they solve problems in a flashy way, but because their mere presence brings calm. They are grounded, reasonable, and pragmatic, where others may get lost in fantasies or impulsiveness. The archetype of the builder understands the importance of process, discipline, and attention to the small details that lead to lasting results. Emotionally, they are not always expressive in a dramatic way, but their love is shown through actions, through care, dedication, and presence. They often have a strong connection to nature, the earth, and tangible experiences. These are the people who find peace in working with their hands, cooking, gardening, building, or simply being present in the real, physical world. Light and shadow of brown hair. The light side of this archetype is beautiful. It is the strength that holds families together, the patience that builds dreams over years, the loyalty that persists even in tough times. It is a grounded wisdom, one that knows life is not a sprint, but a marathon of meaningful steps. But the shadow side can emerge when this energy becomes too rigid. The desire for stability can turn into resistance to change. The need for security can morph into fear of the unknown. People with brown hair may become overly attached to comfort, routine, or familiarity, fearing to venture into uncertainty, growth, or transformation. This can also manifest as excessive responsibility, taking on too much, carrying the burdens of others, and forgetting to care for their own needs, dreams, and desires. Sometimes the desire to preserve peace or harmony can lead to suppressing emotions, avoiding confrontations, or sacrificing personal authenticity. Spiritual calling. The spiritual calling of the brown-haired archetype is that of the guardian of the earth and the master of balance. It is an invitation to cultivate stability, not as a prison of routine, but as fertile ground for growth, creativity, and meaningful connections. These individuals are called to remember that while roots are essential, so is the courage to grow upward and outward. The earth does not just hold, it also nourishes the seeds that become forests. When they are in balance, they become pillars of strength, not only for themselves, but for everyone they touch. They remind others of the beauty of slowness, presence, and the sanctity found in what is simple, ordinary, and consistent. Reflection to hold. If your hair is brown, whether by birth or by choice, ask yourself, am I creating stability that nourishes me, Or have I built walls that limit my growth? Where am I called to embrace change, even if it feels uncomfortable? How can I balance my care for others with the care I give myself? Because when the energy of brown hair is fully embodied, it becomes one of the most powerful forces in the world. A force that builds, sustains, protects, and gives meaning to life, not through grandiose gestures, but through the daily sanctity of being fully present. The meaning of blonde hair, the radiance of light, innocence, and the eternal muse. If black hair symbolizes the mystery of the shadow, and brown hair represents the grounded strength of the earth, blonde hair is the embodiment of light, radiance, and visible energy. It is the hair color most often associated with youth, purity, charm, and the captivating presence of the eternal muse. In Jungian terminology, this is no coincidence. The color blonde resonates with archetypes related to the child, the innocent, the muse, or even the divine messenger, a bearer of light in a world that often feels dark and heavy. The archetype of the radiant muse. Blonde hair carries an undeniable symbolic power. Across cultures and throughout history, it has been associated with light, divinity, and even supernatural beauty. In ancient mythology, gods, goddesses, and celestial beings were often depicted with golden hair, radiating an otherworldly glow that set them apart from mortals. People with blonde hair, whether natural or chosen, often unconsciously channel the archetype of the muse, the light bearer, or the innocent child. There is an energy of visibility, presence, and magnetic attraction that tends to follow them. This does not mean they seek attention, but their presence evokes something in others: curiosity, longing, a sense of wonder, or even a protective instinct. Psychological tendencies. From a psychological perspective, those who carry this archetypal energy often embody traits of openness, spontaneity, and emotional expression. There is often a natural charisma, whether soft and gentle or bold and captivating. They often have a touch of playfulness, lightness, a curiosity about life combined with a desire to connect, experience beauty, and bring joy to the spaces they occupy. At their core, they may carry a powerful gift, the ability to uplift others, to remind them of hope, wonder, and the simple joys that often get lost in the gravity of adulthood. Light and shadow of blonde hair. The light side of this archetype is magnetic. These individuals can bring lightness to heavy situations, offer comfort through their mere presence, and become a source of inspiration for those around them. They often embody creativity, joy, and emotional openness in a way that makes others feel seen, appreciated, and uplifted. But as with all archetypes, there is also a shadow. The shadow side of blonde hair is the risk of being objectified, underestimated, or reduced to superficial traits. Throughout history, and even today, blondes, particularly women, often face projections from others, whether of naive innocence, hypersexualization, or assumed simplicity. This can create an inner tension. On one hand, their natural visibility brings opportunities and admiration. On the other, it can lead to a sense of being misunderstood, not taken seriously, or pressured to maintain an image that does not reflect their depth. Another expression of the shadow is the risk of over-identifying with brightness, avoiding depth, complexity, or the uncomfortable truths of life. This can lead to spiritual bypassing, superficial relationships, or emotional disconnection from the harder aspects of reality. Spiritual calling. The spiritual path of the blonde archetype is a journey from external light to inner radiance. It is an invitation to move beyond being a muse for others to becoming a muse for oneself, cultivating an inner light that does not depend on validation, appearance, or external attention. When balanced, this energy becomes radiant not because of how others perceive it, but because it has learned to embody joy, hope, and emotional truth from within. It reminds the world that light is not the absence of darkness, but a courageous choice to shine even in its midst. Reflection. to hold. If you have blonde hair, whether by birth or by choice, ask yourself, am I living as a reflection of others' projections or as the truth of my own light? Where have I been asked to stay small, innocent, or nice instead of fully stepping into my power? How can I honor my gift of bringing joy and light while embracing my depth, complexity, and fullness? Because when the energy of blonde hair is truly integrated, it becomes a beacon, not just for beauty or admiration, but for authentic presence, inner radiance, and a reminder that light exists even in the darkest places. The meaning of red hair, the fire of the rebel, the seducer, and the wild spirit. If blonde hair symbolizes light and innocence and brown hair embodies stability and grounding, red hair is a category unto itself. It is the symbol of fire, passion, intensity, and an untamed spirit. In Jungian psychology, red hair is deeply connected to the archetypes of the rebel, the seducer, the alchemist, and the wild soul, those who cannot and will not be easily tamed. The archetype of the wildfire. Throughout history and across cultures, red hair has been both revered and feared. It is associated with magic, seduction, danger, mystery, and an otherworldly aura. People with red hair often elicit an instinctive reaction in others, an unconscious recognition that they carry something different, something untamable. Jung would likely see this as the embodiment of the archetype of transformation. Fire is an element that destroys, yes, but it is also an element that purifies, renews, and gives birth to new forms. The red-headed soul is often a soul of contrast, intense yet sensitive, passionate yet independent, magnetic yet elusive. This archetype carries an innate boldness. Even those who do not consciously embrace it often find that life pushes them into roles where they are seen as challenging norms, questioning, provoking, and initiating change, whether within themselves or in the world around them. Psychological tendencies. Psychologically, those who carry this energy are often deeply emotional, though they may hide it behind humor, sarcasm, or fierce independence. There is a strong desire for authenticity, an intolerance for falsehood, hypocrisy, or anything that feels artificial. They often have a creative, rebellious spirit. These are people who do not simply accept what life hands them. They challenge it, shape it, and seek to redefine it on their own terms. Their energy can be seductive, captivating, and electrifying, but it can also be overwhelming, both for themselves and others. Relationships for the red-headed archetype are often intense. They crave depth, passion, and the full spectrum of emotional experiences. Half measures rarely satisfy them. Light and shadow of red hair. The light side of this archetype is the power of transformation. These individuals can ignite a fire in themselves and others, a fire that leads to creativity, freedom, and profound change. They are often catalysts, the ones who inspire others to break free from constraints, to live more fully, and to embrace their own wildness. Their presence can be intoxicating in the best sense of the word. It awakens, stirs, and energizes the spaces they enter. Their passion, when consciously channeled, becomes a force for healing, art, leadership, or innovation. But the shadow side of this archetype is the risk of self-destruction, volatility, or perpetual conflict. The same fire that can illuminate can also burn. There may be struggles with anger, impulsivity, anxiety, or difficulty maintaining stability. Sometimes, the intensity of their emotions can lead to emotional exhaustion, isolation, or a pattern of burning bridges, whether in career, friendships, or love. There may also be a fear of being trapped, controlled, or domesticated, leading them to push away anything that feels too restrictive, even if it serves them. Spiritual calling. The spiritual journey for the red-headed archetype is the path of the conscious firekeeper. It is about learning to master the flame, not to extinguish it or let it rage out of control, but to direct it as a source of creation, inspiration, and transformation. This archetype is here to remind the world that life is not meant to be lived in shades of gray, that passion, desire, freedom, and wildness are sacred parts of the human experience. These are not things to be tamed, but energies to be respected and mastered. In balance, the red-headed individual becomes a living embodiment of the alchemist, transforming chaos into beauty, destruction into rebirth, and pain into power. Reflection to hold. If your hair is red, whether by birth or by choice, ask yourself, where am I invited to embrace my wildness rather than suppress it? How can I channel my fire in a way that nourishes me rather than consumes me? Am I running from stabilization out of fear of being tamed? Or am I ready to create a life where freedom and commitment can coexist? Because when the energy of red hair is fully integrated, it becomes one of the most powerful forces of transformation. A reminder that life is not about dimming the light or silencing the fire, but about learning to let it burn in a way that illuminates your path and inspires others to do the same. The meaning of gray or white hair, the sacred archetype of the elder, the sage, and the guardian of timeless wisdom. If black hair embodies mystery, brown hair represents grounded stability, blonde hair radiates light and innocence, and red hair channels fire and rebellion, gray or white hair transcends them all. It is a living symbol of timeless wisdom, spiritual maturity, and the sacred passage to higher consciousness. In Carl Jung's psychology, this is not just about age or appearance. Gray or white hair symbolizes the archetype of the elder, the sage, the guardian of wisdom, a person who has passed through the cycles of life, through fire, through darkness, through joy, through sorrow, and emerged not only older, but transformed. The archetype of the sacred elder. Throughout history and across cultures, people with silver, gray, or white hair have been seen as bridges between worlds. They carried the wisdom of the past, the clarity of the present, and the foresight of the future. Their mere presence was a reminder that life is more than ambition, desire, or survival. It is a spiritual journey. In Jungian terminology, this archetype encompasses the final stage of psychic development. Integration. It is the culmination of the individuation journey, the process by which a person becomes whole, authentic, and aligned with their true self. Those who embody this archetype, whether through natural aging or the conscious choice to let their hair gray as an act of empowerment, radiate a quiet but undeniable authority. Their energy says, I have seen, I have lived, and now I carry the wisdom of my story, not just for myself, but for those who follow me. Psychological tendencies. From a psychological perspective, the gray-haired archetype tends to detach from the noise, superficiality, and distractions that once seemed important. There is a natural turning inward, a desire for meaning, depth, and reflection. These individuals often become mentors, guides, counselors, or quiet anchors in their communities. Even if they do not consciously embrace these roles, others instinctively sense their presence as a source of comfort, clarity, or guidance. There is often a deep appreciation for simplicity, nature, spirituality, and the cycles of life. The need to prove, compete, or chase after things fades, not because desire disappears, but because it evolves. The focus shifts from external validation to internal alignment. Light and shadow of gray or white hair. The light side of this archetype is profound. It carries an energy of peace, perspective, forgiveness, and unconditional presence. These individuals embody resilience not as hardness, but as a softness earned through life storms. They become living libraries of wisdom, capable of offering insights no book or teacher can replicate. But the shadow side can manifest when the transition to this stage meets resistance or is misunderstood. For some, the appearance of gray hair especially in societies obsessed with youth, can evoke a sense of invisibility, insignificance, or decline. It can be a struggle to let go of former identities, to grieve the passing of earlier life stages. This can lead to bitterness, regret, or a desperate clinging to the past. The fear of aging, of becoming invisible or useless, can overshadow the sacred gift this stage has to offer. Jung understood this tension perfectly. In his view, the second half of life was not about decline, but about spiritual awakening, a time when the ego loosens and the soul steps forward. Spiritual calling, the spiritual calling of the gray-haired archetype, is nothing less than the path of the master of integration. It is an invitation to embody a presence that transcends the bustle of the world, to become a guide, a witness, and a holder of sacred space for others. These individuals are no longer driven by the dramas of the ego. Their power comes from their mere presence, from their ability to sit in silence and know that nothing is missing, that everything, joy, pain, success, failure, has served its purpose in shaping the soul. Their role is to remind others of the long-term perspective, the reality that life is not a sprint, but a spiral of growth, death, rebirth, and transcendence. When fully embodied, the gray-haired person becomes a beacon, not of the fleeting glow of youth, but of the enduring light of wisdom. Reflection to hold. If your hair is gray or white, whether through time or by choice, ask yourself, am I resisting the sacred role I am being invited into? What wisdom have I gained that the world is waiting for me to share? How can I embody the truth that aging is not decline, but a powerful spiritual ascent? Because when the energy of gray or white hair is fully integrated, it transforms the individual into something rare and sacred, a living mirror of what it means to transcend, to bear witness, and to remind the world that while youth shines, wisdom glows forever. The meaning of artificial hair dyes, the psychological significance of choosing to change. Hair color. In Jungian terminology, changing your hair color is never just about aesthetics. It is a symbolic act, conscious or unconscious, of transformation, identity, and self-expression. When someone chooses to dye their hair, they tap into the archetype of the shapeshifter or the creator, the one who refuses to be confined by fixed identities. It is a declaration that says, I choose the energy I want to carry. Someone switching to blonde may be invoking greater visibility, lightness, or playfulness. Choosing black may reflect a desire for depth, mystery, or protection. Red often evokes fire, courage, and rebellion. Even unconventional colors like blue, green, or pink carry symbolic meaning, a rejection of conformity, an embrace of individuality, or an embodiment of a specific emotional frequency. Whether the choice is temporary or permanent, it reflects an inner psychological movement, a desire of the soul to shift, grow, or express a part of itself that no longer wishes to remain hidden. Now that you have explored the profound symbolic meaning of hair color, whether it is the mystery of black, the stability of brown, the radiance of blonde, the fire of red, or the sacred wisdom of gray, it becomes clear that it was never just about hair, never just about appearance. It is always about energy, about the invisible forces that quietly shape your emotions, your relationships, your desires, and the way you move through the world. This is the essence of Carl Jung's teachings. Nothing is random. What is visible on the outside is a mirror of what is happening within. And when you learn to read these signs, whether in your reflection, your patterns, or your emotions, you stop living on autopilot and start living consciously. But understanding the meaning is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you learn to work with your own mind, your own shadow, and your own energy. Because the true question is no longer, what does my hair color say about me? It is now, am I ready to become everything I was always meant to be?